I did 70 and very sweet, and she was obsessed with my husband, and it was very annoying. I feel like we'd go to sessions and she'd be like, you don't need to do anything but keep looking good. You need a lot of homework. And I was like, anybody? And I was like, that guy? And she was like, he's adorable. You, on the other hand, do all this anxiety homework.
Yikes.
A ton of cognitive behavioral therapy. He's great the way he is.
Here we are, and welcome to another episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast. Today, we're gonna have a therapeutic guest episode because we have with us back again Mollie Eliasof, the official psychotherapist of Friday Night Movie. We are dubbing her, but also a tremendous psychotherapist. You can learn all about her at MollieEliasof.com, and she specializes in celebrities and high-powered executives and people who are, achieving things at really high levels in their life and want to take it to the next level. This is where Mollie's expertise lies. Her expertise is in everything.
So it's still unclear why she's hanging out with us. It
is. She
specializes in high-powered executives and celebrities.
Yeah, so because what we're gonna do with Mollie today is we're gonna bring her back again to do some fictitious character therapy. But before that, I just want to welcome Mollie. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to hang out with you guys again. Like, I don't even need to be on a podcast. I just want to hang with all three of you.
That is what we try to do with the show. That's what we try to and when we've had guests who don't know us personally recently, we have to explain to them up front. We're like, we promise, we know you're famous, but we really just want you to be friends with us and hang out with us like you're in our family. And that either it really works from there, or it's going to get really awkward. It's going to get really weird. Wait, so you guys just did an elaborate podcast to hang out with people? Yes, that's exactly what we did. But we're so
with
lucky.
Each other. That's how we hang out. That's how we can hang out with each other.
Every week. We're so grateful for this. So Mollie, it's so great to have you back. And we're going to ask you lots of questions, but I introduced you correctly, right? I only asked you 100 times the right way to do it. Okay.
You nailed it.
Thank you. And because you're a returning guest, you can really jump in at any time, but we do need to start within the family here because we always try to start with a family story when we can. And we had what I would say was the equivalent of an international merger negotiation peace process.
I'm actually surprised that we each didn't need a lawyer representing us in
this negotiation.
So much that there wasn't a professional mediator hired.
So I'll set it up, and then we'll give Lily on a timer a chance to tell what happened because she endured the most. Our parents have decided to buy bunk beds for our children at their apartment so that when we come to visit, we can stuff as many grandchildren as possible. They're getting older. They can share a room. And one would just say, great, go get the bunk beds. But mom and dad, in true Corman fashion, they started with one email.
It started with WhatsApp messages.
They don't just want the destination, they want the journey.
Yes.
Lily, what happened?
Becky, okay, so Becky's right.
Endured it.
There's a family chat. No, Allie and you, literally, you're like whatever country decides to leave the summit and make they're like, we're out of the summit. We're not participating in this summit. You can nuke Australia. We're done. We don't give a shit. That's what you and Allie were like. And so me and Becky were left holding the bag. And so and at least Allie withdrew kindly. She texted, get whichever you want. I don't care. I'm good with anything. You didn't even answer until you started messing shit up.
Trolling mom.
So it starts with we have this family WhatsApp chat. It starts with a few questions about bunk beds. I don't know. Aren't there just two beds, one on top of each other? Isn't that the
and
question?
then like mom sends a couple links. She sends like one
couple
link
times.
and then
What do
two
you like?
links.
And some colors like white.
And then all of a sudden
dark
there's
brown.
5 links and there's 10 links in the chat.
And then there's an email. And then our dad takes over on email form, which is, I have to say, he's so good at Excel. He should have just sent an Excel Google thing, because he sends all these links in like a Word doc that are numbered with tiny little numbers and then pictures that don't correspond. And so I 100% think that, and then he wants you to give him his top 3. Your top 3.
And then your top 3 aren't good enough, because then you need to defend your top 3.
Hold on a second, though. I don't remember how many were in this. The man is a PhD.
There was at least 17. There was at least 17.
There was at least
16.
Because 16 was my second favorite.
And it wasn't the last one on the doc.
So it wasn't 5. There were 17 bunk beds with links and photos to review.
Okay. And I also want to say that
I think a lot of them were the same bed, but just on different websites.
Has it been a long time since they bought anything? Do they need to buy more things? Because
no, we're grateful that they want to buy this.
I'm grateful, but I feel like they didn't need this much input. And also, when you go to look for one thing to buy, I feel like you look at like 3 or 4 of them. You don't need to find 17 of that thing. Okay. It was a lot.
We have to also acknowledge that it wasn't just the links, the 17 item long email list, the asking for the top 3, the defending the top 3. But it was
because none of us sent the same 3.
No, we did. We had one common denominator.
We had one common denominator, but not all of us.
But then it was the
because Shy and Allie are like, fuck this, we're not doing this. But my husband feels the need to weigh in. So he starts responding. I thought, great, it's just going to be me and Becky. We could narrow this down. Then my husband starts weighing and he like picks 3 completely different ones.
No, it was the time crunch. It was the red alert.
This by tomorrow because Macy's is having a sale. It was
but they were Macy's from like Amazon and Wayfair. No, but I was in a course Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Shout out to my Georgetown ITL cohort 10 facilitation.
Becky is a certified facilitator now from Georgetown University.
But throughout the 3 days,
you should have facilitated this bunk bed thing.
Mom, I am in this course every day till 4:30 and cannot be disturbed.
Now she charges money.
No, I just heard FaceTiming me, not once, not like 3-4 times a day, because she needs an answer now on the
Mollie,
bunk bed.
You should know that one of the options was floated was a 3-story bunk bed.
Oi.
Okay. Oi. You say oi because that looks like a concentration.
Because we're not going to say how we describe the bunk bed, but you know what it looks like.
We just called it the World War II bunk bed because so you know what that looks like. Okay. That was one of the options. And so I finally text my sibling chat with my sister-in-law, Allie, and I go, you are welcome. I have just spent 30 minutes on the phone, finally putting in the final decision about the color of the bunk beds. And they're being ordered. You can't go back. It's being ordered. It's done. So
at this point, by the way, we're at like the midpoint. If this were a movie, we're only at the midpoint of the story.
So my mom texts the family chat. I ordered the bunk beds, and Shy just writes back, "We're getting bunk beds."
I wrote, whoa! My kids are not sleeping.
We're getting bunk beds.
Oh no!
And my mom
kids actually sleep.
My mom, God bless her, didn't miss a beat, and she just texts World War II bunk beds. And that's it. Mic drop. Which they are not. They're just like normal bunk beds.
Our mom is the best.
I'm glad she was paying attention.
Okay.
But anyways, so
now
it was quite a saga.
Now, that is an incredible saga. Mollie, any family advice for us before we dig into today's topic based on that story?
We miss you a lot.
Oh,
that's so true, right?
They've been in Miami. They've been in Miami without us. They've been in Miami without us. Oh, okay, all right. And you really hit that. You know
what?
Really
that's a great point. I hope they listen to this far into the podcast, because by now my mom's yelling at us through the car or wherever she's listening. So, Mommy, if you've listened this far, Mollie's right. We miss you.
And Mommy, if you listen this far, when you call us to yell at us, just give us enough notice so we can record it, so we can release it.
Yes.
Now, today, though, we're going to talk about something that is probably my most important criteria for loving it's TV series in particular, but it could be a movie as well. And that is character growth. And Mollie has been gracious enough to bring her psychotherapeutic experience and her coaching experience to this conversation and put that lens on fictitious characters with us. So Mollie,
which is my favorite game, is pretending characters are real.
So Mollie, set it up for us.
Yep.
What makes good character growth? I mean, you could say in TV or in life or whatever, but what makes real growth? What makes good growth?
I think in TV, it's the level of entertainment that happens in conjunction with the emotion that you're able to connect with, so that the development isn't incremental in a way that you barely feel it, but that you're really seeing all the different milestones. And in that way, it's the same as in real life. Like, you know, when we're living our life, it's a lot harder to see, which is why like working with a professional is so helpful. You get the lens, the reflection back of all the small steps you're taking to take massive development and growth in your life, but really feeling the emotion of the character shifting, you know, from feeling like awkward and dorky, for example, to feeling like dorky and really proud and confident about it. It's just like such a wonderful thing to witness their transformation.
That's really cool. And so when you think of transformation being authentic, because it's going to be different on TV, like you said, you're going to see the highlights. What makes a transformation authentic? Like, could you ever watch some and see, oh, that one I buy that, and that one I don't buy?
Totally. I think when it's just a event, like a life stage event that seems to make transformation, someone has a baby, all of a sudden they're a new person. They get a new job or promotion, all of a sudden they're a new person. It fits. You understand that all those life stage things change us, but often we really feel that they've grown into this next version of themselves as they bump along the way. And so when we miss that and we just glorify and do the highlight, we really miss the hard part of change, which is the thing that, you know, we often don't like to feel, but actually makes a huge difference.
And what do you think? So there's a pet peeve I have of some shows, and maybe this is unfair because this is totally unrealistic. But one thing that drives me nuts is if you watch a season of a show and there's tremendous growth and evolution, and then you come back to the next season and they kind of set you back a little bit with the character, as if, oh, no, Chuck Rhodes on Billions hasn't learned anything. He's still an egomaniacal
right. Or
guy
Nate on Ted Lasso, where they're like, no, it'll serve our story if we just completely change his character. And I get so annoyed as an audience member because I'm like, no, they're real to me. You can't do
But then
that.
they also, but then they try to trick you saying, no, the reason we're allowed to do this is we're going to give you backstory you didn't know before. So we're going to.
But the point I started with is when they go somewhere and then they just restart. Like, is that realistic in real life, that people go back into their old habits or will be the same even after they've gone as far as a big milestone?
Totally. I think what you're talking about is kind of like regressive behavior. When we return to kind of like our old past behavior, it doesn't have to be younger behavior. It could be like our last chapter. I'm terrible. You guys know I like barely watch TV and movies, but I try a little bit. And the character that came to my mind when you guys were talking was the main character in Psych, right? That like Sean kind of has these like developments. He like engages with Juliet, and then he like regresses and kind of can't handle it and takes it back. That's really super real. I think some of it's done with a little like more drama intended for entertainment purposes, you know, but all the time we grow and then we go back to what's comfortable. That's what usually that behavior is. But I also understand like kind of what Becky was saying, where they like do too much foreshadowing or like backstory.
It's like too much backstory to explain why this person gets to act completely out of character.
Right.
Or I feel like the regression is more realistic. Now that makes more sense to me than when they like add in like all of a sudden we find out that his dad was terrible to him and that's why he's changed completely his personality or whateher.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Versus on Psych, where they've actually spent, 4 seasons giving you the backstory little by little between him and his dad. We're giving you the backstory on Sean. And then when you see him behaving badly in his relationship, you're like, oh, this is all in alignment.
Totally.
And he makes some progress and he inches forward, but he's still growing up, and that's why you can buy it. Okay. And that's a great example because Psych is one where it never has bothered me that Sean always stays Sean. But I would never have been satisfied if he never, I would have not liked the character as much if he didn't advance in his relationship with Juliet, even a little bit, which he does over the shows and the movies, even though it's small amounts, they give you those little notches. Otherwise, you really do feel like you're restarting, and then it's just like an old timey show where they never advance the characters at all.
Yeah.
Well, I also think he wouldn't, just last about that. I think also he wouldn't have the capacity to keep growing in his career the way he does, right? Like it wouldn't correlate. If he didn't take those steps and further his development with Juliet, he would probably be kind of more who he was in season 1, kind of doing things by the seat of his pants, even at work, and then getting less and less gigs over time from the police department.
Oh, wow. You just tied like that just blew my mind. The promotions and his career development with his character, but also accepting his regression because it's a human thing. I mean, Becky and I already love Psych, but
we love Psych, but that's really
out on another level.
Yeah.
Okay. So
giving it even more depth.
So you have many amazing clients of which you are super professional. So we don't know who they are, which is great. Confidentiality is like the most important thing.
We don't know who they are.
No. What I'm saying is that that's one of the, as people who are big fans and promoters of therapy as a good thing in the world, the sacred confidentiality is so important.
Yep.
However, with fictitious characters, they're not real. So
you're like, however, tell us who your most famous client is.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that Mollie's going to...
Feels like you're about to say that, though. Or you're about to say, unlike our other therapist friends that tell us everything.
No, they don't. That's not true. What I want to ask Mollie is, who would you want as a client?
Right.
That is fictitious. Not like I'd like to, sit down with,
100%. We're also talking about characters. We're not talking about the actors. The characters. We're talking about
exactly
non-real.
I mean, you could say non-real humans too.
No, non-real humans.
Oh, that's a good question.
This is my question. Thank you.
Question. That's hard because it's so broad and I have so many people. But I think it would be twofold. I'd have one that would be an interest for my intellect. Like I would love to work with like a Doctor Who at different moments, like maybe David Tennant Doctor Who. Like I'd want to understand his
or David Tennant
challenge. For him specifically, I feel like it's not just
that version of Doctor
right,
Who.
Right,
totally,
right.
And then to your earlier comment, I think, or like maybe this was pre-chat, I think working with a client who's really ambitious and focused on what they want to grow and develop. If we're going to go back to Psych, I think Gus would be a great client. Like I think he could have found his other half in season 2 if he had the right support, because he's focused, he's driven, but he's also a little lackluster. And if he had space to get support for that, he might be engaged and married way sooner.
And he's got the best opening line ever. Have you heard about Pluto?
Oh yeah. Oh, I love Gus.
That is a great line.
Dule Hill.
He's really great in that role. I don't know if you watch the show, but I know Shy at least does and would get this, but I would love to, if I had your job, to get to have as a client Rome from Succession.
I have not seen everyone.
So Succession. That's like a must watch for you. I think
you should watch. Yeah. And I'd love to have you back on and we could do a whole Succession thing with you and analyze these characters. These are very meaty characters.
Okay. So that will be mine and Mollie's homework. We will watch Succession.
Yeah. And then we'll come back on and we'll have to do a whole thing.
Because Rome, just so you know, it's this media empire family, very like hard-edged father who built the empire and raised it, and then it's the 3 children who were raised as billionaires who are products of the life they had. So I think and each one is a different, there's the oldest, there's the middle, and then the youngest one is the one Lily's talking about, Rome, who is
definitely the most fucked up.
He's funny, but he's screwed up and he's
but also the most well-adjusted in a weird way.
Yeah. He's also the most self-aware. He's wild.
Very self-aware. Yeah. He's got some fetish stuff that I find really interesting. I'd love to unpack.
But the family dynamics, like the richness of those characters and what they paint into them, it would be amazing to have you like tell us, because also a few of them are the kind of folks, I don't know what personality types is, but who are the ones who would immediately come in and fight the therapist. including Rome, who would fight the therapist.
I don't think he's capable of even getting therapy, but
which like I never think is a bad thing. I mean, I don't know. I'm not physically fighting. That's different. But, like, I think it's important that's my one rule. Don't throw scissors at my head, which we're virtual with. I can see less. It's great. But, I think it's really important that whatever it is that's going on for us, we'd want to bring to the table, which includes enacting things out with our therapist. So if we're getting angry, what is that anger about? And where is it coming from? And who you're really directing it towards, et cetera. But yeah, I want to get to know these characters so I can speak more specific.
They're the most interesting characters, I think, on TV right now. I think there's so much depth to that show because, they've set you up that these are horrible billionaires and you should hate them, and then they
it's not that
give
simple.
You why they are the way they are,
totally.
And you.
So many people love this show. Like this show is like beloved by every single person that watches it, and in like an addictive way, like, oh my God, the third season's coming out, And every single one of them has said to me, oh, don't you just love to hate them? And I want to be like, there's no way you hate these people. You wouldn't watch the show so dedicatedly, if that's a word. Dedicated? Yeah.
Huh.
You wouldn't be so attached to like the season coming out and enjoy an hour-long show that's so chock full of stuff that's intense over 8 episodes if you hated every single person. The show's so good because there's something about at least 3 of the 4 of them that makes you love them.
Yeah, 3
One
of the
is
4.
pretty horrible.
He's okay,
right.
Molly, we have to do a Succession episode.
Yeah.
That's gonna be amazing. All right, so preview. All right, now let's dig into some specific characters. I don't know who wants to start first.
I didn't know if Molly had seen any of this.
But that's the best part about doing this with Molly is that Molly never needs, like, Molly, if she doesn't know the character, we set it up and Molly just gives us the straight advice.
I think assume she doesn't know the character and then just talk about them as if they're real.
Best psychotherapist for the show. So that's why she's the best. So
they're fictional to me too on multiple levels. I don't even know them.
But Lil, do you want to set up Shauna from Yellow Jackets?
God, I really want to hear you set up the first.
I think you should do Yellow Jackets. I'll do Geralt, and Lily does.
Sure, done.
Emma and Peter.
And then we'll take a little aside because I'm going to give you. We should review that movie for a minute. But okay, so Yellow Jackets is a show about a group, a soccer team of young women from high school and their coaches who crash in a mysterious forest in Canada on the way to a thing. And 19 months later, they come out.
Get rescued.
There's hints that there was some like cannibalism and murder and things like that. But the ones that are still alive are now adults, and they're living regular lives, but there's also a certain mystery and trauma that's informing their thing. So there's definitely
there's some PTSD.
Totally.
So Shauna, who's played by the amazing Melanie Linsky, she is at the same time a put together, somewhat sad, resigned to her life housewife who in high school wasn't the super popular one, but she actually married the prom king in the end, and he really, really loves her. But she also has an undergirding rage and dissatisfaction with her life. So on one hand, she's this, very, proper mother. She also is a little bit of a cold-blooded killer.
She does murder someone and doesn't seem that upset about it.
Yeah, but she's also just trying to be a good mom. And then at one point, she to teach a lesson to her kid for not liking her dinner, she goes out to the backyard, kills a rabbit and skins it and feeds it to the family, and they don't really realize that that's what she's done. She sort of tells them, but they don't realize it because they don't know what she's capable of. So
she has this real like power behind her, but she seems to not know how to use it or channel it.
What a kind way to talk about her.
Very angry. She's so likable, but she also murdered someone and wasn't that upset.
Well, she murdered the guy she was having an affair with, because in a jump to conclude, well, first of all, by jumping to conclusions, she had an affair with him because she thought her husband was having an affair,
and he wasn't.
And he wasn't. And tons of spoilers. But we already did a Yellow Jackets conclusion episode, right. So if you're following this show, we've already spoiled it. And then when she thought that the boyfriend when the
boyfriend was blackmailing her,
she never believed that this handsome artistic guy could like her the same way she never believed that her prom king husband really loved her and wasn't cheating on her.
Okay.
So when she got like a clue that maybe he was blackmailing her, she stabs him in cold blood.
Well, she has like a PT. To be fair, she does have a PTSD moment where she has a
PTSD
out of body experience and kind of
and murders him.
She kills him. But she again is not that upset about it.
So Shauna now, she is with her husband. And she I
asked Shy to do that because I thought he'd go quicker, but I feel like
no, sorry.
I mean, there's like so much. Like, what's the question?
I don't know.
There's a lot here.
So she and her husband, right? Because we're gonna come back to character growth. She and her husband have now hid the body, and they're going back to their life.
Her.
He was.
I'm
they make up.
Simplifying the story a little bit. Okay,
they make up after that.
How do you, and we don't really know the trauma exactly that she went through, but how do you help Shauna grow into a world where she believes in the love that people are giving to her? Because to me, I feel like Shauna has now twice experienced not believing she was deserving of the love from her husband, which led her to jump to conclusions, and then not believing she was deserving of the love that the guy was infatuated with her because he thought that
perpetually unpopular.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's the area of growth I would want to talk to her about. I don't think
it's the murder.
Really realize no, I mean, there's a lot to talk about with her. Fair enough, probably the murder included. But actually it ties into that. What I'm about to say, I don't think it's about realizing that people love her and being able to accept that. It's standing into her own. I think she doesn't have a real sense of self in some way. It sounds like she's playing, even this idea of her being a little bit like Stepford wifey, like she feels like she's putting on a costume, and the relationship that was the affair and the husband and the husband being the prom king too. It's like she wants to be this next iteration of self, but inside doesn't sound like she feels it until she murders something. And then all of a sudden, boom, she's got that energy and that just.
She does talk about how she doesn't feel things in the show. So, wow.
Very good.
On the money.
Very good on the money, Molly.
Damn. You haven't watched the show and I feel like you summed her up. That's amazing. Okay, I will stop talking. Over to Becky.
Okay, so Geralt of Rivia is...
He's got very thick thighs.
He's very muscular, thighs. He's a very muscular man.
You probably, if you got a chance to talk to him, that's the only thing you should talk to him about.
You should focus on. You wouldn't be able to listen to him. You'd be looking at his thighs, muscular thighs. So he's a loner.
They've been known to rupture his leather pants.
Yeah, wow. Apparently on set, there's a rumor that.
Sorry, in my mind, he's real. So Geralt, please don't talk about sets or shows. Okay. The real Geralt of Rivia. Yeah. He's a loner. He's a lone wolf. He's a mysterious man.
He's gorgeous.
He's a fighter. He's very tough, being physically tough and strong and invulnerable, and being perceived as invulnerable is so really important to him. But when he does care about someone, he cares deeply and fully. And with
so far, he's only cared about a horse.
A horse and like two people, like three
and
people.
two other people and like a half.
2.5 people. He cares about
have a lot of.
He saves Yaskier.
Yeah, but that's like recent. That's recent.
But
like
so of these
very
like
small
horse and 2.5 people that he's cared deeply about, one of them, the woman that he's in love with, betrays him and wants to apologize and gain his trust back, but it's unclear if he can really forgive her and trust again.
Well, he says he can't. He full out says he can.
He says
we hope. But the thing is that the betrayal isn't. It's a great angle in the story, because if it was like something very, very bad, it would be unrealistic, because he would never. He's such like a loyal person that he didn't
realize she didn't realize she was betraying him.
Right.
She wasn't like maliciously betraying him.
It was like an oops to Daisy.
She made a really bad judgment call. She made a really bad judgment call by,
and in the end, she fixed it.
Almost giving up his daughter. It's not like his blood daughter, but like the child he's raising, by almost giving her up to an evil demon who
at his park house
murder her.
That's a whole other thing. But then she didn't.
Wait, I'm supposed to be the one explaining this, Lily. You're getting the next one.
But I don't really want the next one. I didn't put it on the list. I think they're a good couple.
So you take over. Then you take over, and there's Emma and Peter have no issues whatsoever.
No, they do. Go ahead.
You explain.
Go ahead.
You finish. I feel bad.
No, sorry.
No, but what's the growth question for?
So the growth question
Geralt
is like, how can what are the steps he can take to really hear what his ex is trying to tell him about it being an accident, and like being able to forgive her and move forward with the relationship and not hold this against her? Because she's like one of literally 2 people and a horse that he actually did trust.
And the horse is dead.
And the horse is dead.
Oh, it's
horrible.
Well, I still don't understand how that's an oops, but that sounds like a massive betrayal.
Because she didn't know that she didn't know that this person, this kid was his. She knew that he had a kid out there. That's okay. But she didn't know, she had never met the kid and didn't know that this was the kid. And some evil witch demon wants the kid. And she's willing to make a trade to go find the kid and give it to the witch demon so that she can get her powers back, her own powers back. So she's doing
which is her biggest sense of self-identity. It's not like a trivial thing.
Though.
She is extraordinarily
she's gonna sacrifice
selfish.
A child.
Why would you want to rebuild a relationship with her?
Exactly. Because she doesn't do it.
Question?
In the end, she doesn't do it. She doesn't do it. She chooses to not get her own powers back to save the kid. Okay. And then she offers herself up for sacrifice to save everyone.
All right. So she's trying to repair the rupture, right?
She is.
I don't know if that's enough redeemable quality if he's someone who's that as loyal as you described him.
He is so loyal.
And so I think there are a few questions. I don't know if the question, the question I feel like was, how do we get her closer to him? How do we like bridge the gap? How do we build the repair? I think the question for him, really, if I was just talking to him, is like, how does he figure out what he needs from another person in a relational dynamic? What is enough and what is the deal breaker? And how does he get super crystal clear on not only how that works and who he knows right now, but also starting to be mindful that his circle is getting smaller, and what does he need relationship dynamics for? And does he need to increase that? And then how does he assess who is a good fit for adding into his inner circle based on the qualities that he's identified?
Her and like some horses. That's it. But
so he needs more people, right?
Wait, can we just stop for a moment and appreciate what amazing advice this is?
It's so amazing.
I feel like it's very good advice.
It's good advice. I have a question.
In the world, assess what you need. Look at your circle. Is it getting too small? And then what people need if they're going to be in your circle.
Right. But my question for you is, and this is in your real life experience, not with like fake people's and shows. I mean, in like the patients that you've seen, or clients or whatever. Can people really come back from betrayal? From true betrayal?
I definitely believe so. But I think you have to opt in for that. So I think you have to opt in and go, I really want this person in my life. And why? And that's why I would have him start with like, what do you need from people? Why are relationships important to you? And what do you look for in a relationship so you can sink into ease? And obviously when there's betrayal, trust is ruptured. And most of us want some sense of trust and confidence in the other person. So the question becomes, the other attributes you have on that list, are they strong enough in the dynamic and the pull that you have towards this person to give space and time to rebuild the qualities that were broken?
Okay. Wow.
That's
like $120, $150.
How much you can Venmo her after?
We don't pay our guests.
We don't. Yeah, sorry.
But
that was
send us your new address and we have some amazing swag.
We can send you a
it's on the new website, but I'll also send you a personal address. Yeah.
Not all of our guests give us a personal address. Some of them are like,
you can send it to a PO box.
Get out of here.
Right.
So I have a third one that I can do instead of Peter and Emma. I think
we'll come back to Peter and Emma later.
So there's this family, the Gemstone family. They are the founders of a mega church, $1 billion church, fleets of private jets and big estate houses, all this fancy and they are leaders in their community and renowned around the world. But the family dynamic itself has some pretty intense, heavy things. The main one being that the patriarch, the father, right? There's a father, his wife recently passed away, and he has 3 adult children. And the adult children are all so desperate for their father's approval. And so desperate, the things that they go through to try and win their father's approval, or to prove to him that they are fully formed adults and can be trusted to lead the church and lead their own lives. They go through some pretty extreme measures from time to time. And at the same time, they so deeply miss their mother, who has passed away maybe a year ago, that there was an incident recently where they believed that their father had actually murdered someone. And when they confronted their father, the father comes clean with his alibi for that night. He previously wasn't sharing his alibi, which is why they thought he was the murderer. And he comes clean with his alibi. And his alibi was that he was actually on a date with a woman, and it was like getting kind of hot. And they're so devastated by this that they would prefer that he had just murdered someone.
But this is after the mother has passed away.
This is after
correct?
the mother's been dead for a year. The mother has died like a year before. The mother died a year before.
Because it's not
like
extreme
grief.
So now he's in this big confrontation with his children because they are so disappointed in him and so upset with him for starting to date, a year plus after his wife has died, that their reaction to him is, why couldn't you have just murdered someone that night instead of going and trying to go on a date with someone? This is so horrible. I'm just like, what would you recommend this family does as some first steps to try and deal with this confrontation, repair this?
Super layered question. Really interesting. I can give you my gut instincts. I don't know if I would know my first steps that I'd want to go with. I probably just want to get to know everyone. But I think I would also really want to know what's important and meaningful. I think in that, the confrontation, if I use my intellect, my logic brain, I like to call it, doesn't quite make sense. So you'd rather someone who it sounds like was a religious leader to some component be a murderer, which I'd imagine would be super hypocritical. Although I'm sure there's something equally, or it sounds like more triggering about him investing in romantic relationships and being somehow betraying even, their mom, even though she's passed. I'd want them to really start to look at how much has it been important that he gets glorified, and to what degree, and how do we repair relationships by humanizing them and understanding the qualities of who we are as people, including yourselves. Can you start to see yourself less in this system that sounds really hierarchical and also very tantalizing and desired to reach and keep growing and climbing, but also really wanting to have the sense of normative connection the way a family does. And so how do we kind of almost bring you back down to ground using gravity to find, how is our father a real human? How am I a real human? How are we all real humans? And how do we accept that piece while trying to repair the relationship dynamics?
I feel normative connection is the key word in this, because this family does not have normative connections.
But can I also just say I officially like this game even more when Mollie doesn't know the show or what we're talking about, because I'm sort of blown away. This is
it's incredible.
This is incredible. I feel like
Weirdly,
I'm at a
this
mentalist
is
show.
Very good advice that we're going to take away from this.
No, it is very good advice, but apply to these extreme situations.
Well,
but the advice holds up for anybody who's listening.
Thank you, everyone. And yes,
can we take a caller?
I'm not good at that game at all, but I can hear themes really loudly. And look, I think that, even what flashed to my mind are a lot of families that have large companies, and their, let's say, last name is notorious for the company or the enterprise that they're associated with. There are always themes of that conflict between we are family and we are a business. And always that is going to be a push-pull, because then what becomes the priority? Our loyalty and connection to one another, the thriving of the business. How do they compete with one another? How do we hold space for both? How do we figure out how they're collaborative? And we're talking about a religious institution, but it sounds like within the same vein almost. And what can happen in that is a dissociation of this person being human versus a cog in the business.
Wow.
Yes.
It's like, that's just us listening and absorbing.
We're just
it takes a lot to silence these siblings. Okay. What do we want to do next? Do you think we have time? Because we do want to talk about I Want You Back. Do we want to talk?
I think we could do comparathon if you want.
Let's
Only
think
because
of the
I worked on
comparathon.
it.
But it's
for a
assuming
while.
she knows all of these characters.
Oh, I figured I will have to explain.
I'm confident Molly doesn't. So because I know Molly doesn't. She left me a message that said, I don't know who a lot of these people are. But I think that's when we describe it, it's great.
Yeah,
so
I like it.
But I'll explain the character arcs very fast in this case.
Great.
Like best adapted description length.
Got it.
Go.
Okay. So Finding Nemo, let's just check. Finding Nemo, the one
I
about the
watched
fish?
a long time ago. I don't know if I know every person.
But like
Father-
the neurotic, very scared dad, helicopter parent.
Yeah, got it.
Neurotic dad, afraid of losing his son because of a past trauma of losing his wife and some of his family, needs to, over the course of this movie, learns to let his son, swim free in the world. So that's your first one. And then we're going to compare it to the next one in the line. And you're going to pick which one do you think is a better growth arc or whatever criteria it's going to make it better for you. Okay. Shrek, big ogre who falls in love with beautiful woman and learns to see his own beauty and let that be seen to her, not physically, but emotionally. And that's how they fall in love.
Hands down, Shrek. I think Shrek is really interesting to watch him grow into his sense of like love, his sense of self, his sense of confidence. Finding Nemo, the dad deserves to be as neurotic and nervous as possible. This is a helpful child on the loose, not a growth that's needed.
Okay. Also, like all of his other children and his wife were murdered. So
right, like real, legit.
Allowed to be nervous.
Okay, so fair. Shrek and Hermione Granger. What's Hermione Granger's growth?
I don't know. I didn't see that movie, but I put Harry Potter, and I was like, "There's not enough women on this list," so I switched it.
There's a stack of goody two shoes. I don't know.
Okay, so I'll say this: Hermione Granger is a rule obsessed, wanting to be the A student, ends up growing to be one of the leaders of a revolution that saves the world.
Putting her,
that's pretty good, Shai.
Putting her values before her
authority, her respect of authority.
Over her respect for authority, learning to do that.
Then there you go. Not a bad example.
Comparing her to who?
Shrek.
Based on that description, I only saw the first few movies. And only read the first few books. I would say Hermione Granger, hands down. Okay. I think that's pretty epic. Yeah. All
right. So Hermione, now let's put Hermione against Frodo Baggins from Lord of the Rings. Frodo is from a group of underestimated small person who, because of his virtue and his goodness and the belief that he is the only one who can resist the temptation that this ring, this evil device has, is saddled with the burden that literally gets heavier and heavier and heavier the further he gets into his quest of essentially taking on lifelong scars that will never go away.
He's like
but because he is the only person who can literally save the world. Like he has to, and he is the only one who can do it, and everybody is counting on him, and it's a burden that is extremely heavy on him, but because he's good, he comes back to always trying to do it, but it's extremely hard for him. And in the end, he saves the world.
Definitely him. First of all, you got me more bought in to see the movies, the series, which I've never watched, which is like
I just rewatched them with my kids.
Pretty incredible.
And
his change is quite fundamental. He can't even go back to live with the hobbits. Like he's so different that he needs to like find a different life from this journey. I think
that's part of why I chose him. It's like the depth of the beautiful characteristics, the virtue that he has is like so rich in that description. Like I'm already pulled towards him. He wins. Okay. I think.
I don't know. The next one's real hard though.
Okay. Elle Woods from Legally Blonde.
She's amazing. She's an icon. A role model.
This is a tough one.
Well, let's start. Elle originally, despite being brilliant herself, thinks that her future is to be the wife of a man who's going to be a senator. And then when she is dumped, goes on a quest that ultimately results in her becoming an empowered lawyer who is able to get innocent people off from murder. And then eventually, because let's not forget, Legally Blonde 2, Red, White, and Blonde, make an impact on Capitol Hill herself, where she originally thought she was just going to be a wife. The wife of someone. So her versus Frodo.
First of all, you have a gift for these recaps because that's what I do. And the joy in which you told it was beautiful.
I'm enjoying at first I was nervous about these recaps. I'm like, who's going to listen to this? But I'm thoroughly enjoying them.
They're very entertaining. Frodo, definitely. And I'll tell you why. I don't think Elle's character development is that intense.
Interesting.
I really feel like she always had it in herself. So she just kind of saw it a little bit more, and she definitely had to enact it, which was part of the push, but it never felt like that big of a leap. It felt like a small step, like she had in her. Okay, Mazel, keep going, keep it moving. I don't, yeah.
All right. Okay, this is great. All right. Now, Frodo, and he's nominated for an Oscar now. We got to talk a little bit Will Smith. I love whoever put this on this list because this is one of my favorite movies.
I know.
I
did do you see the deep soul searching for this list?
Hitch. Okay. And this is all, have you seen Hitch?
Yes, I've seen it.
Okay, because that's a relationship movie.
Yeah.
Hitch is a man who was.
That's probably what she studies before she goes to work. I'm just kidding.
His, was burned on relationships when he was in college, and then refashions himself as a super cool dating expert that in the end has to learn to take his guard down to allow himself to fall in love with a woman who is equally guarded, but who is slowly letting her guard down. It's like they're playing poker. The absolutely amazing Eva Mendes. And he has an allergic reaction in the middle of the movie that no one can ever forget.
These recaps are so good. And you're right. Yeah, she was incredible as well. Frodo, hands down. Again, same thing. I feel like Hitch's character, Elle's character, they were like, maybe I can work with them for 6 months. Like, you have it in you. Like, they're basically there. They just need a little nudge. But it's still a hard work nudge. It's not a big leap. Frodo had to change his internal world. Like, I just find the gravity is totally different,
All right. Phil from Groundhog Day. Have you seen Phil from Groundhog Day? And I watched this with my kids. It's about
a great movie.
It's a fantastical realism movie. It's amazing. Bill Murray, he's a narcissistic guy.
He's a pretty terrible person at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. Who goes to be a news reporter on Groundhog Day and is stuck reliving a loop of the same day until, as my children actually pointed out, because they were recapping the movie for us because Groundhog Day recently happened, until he learns to appreciate his life and be grateful for the people. It's not just that he falls in love. It's not just that he does nice things. It's that when he truly becomes grateful for his life, the loop will stop. And then he's able to progress and go forward.
Yeah, it's still Frodo. I mean, that's sweet.
Oh.
Yeah. I think it's pivotal, but I don't think it's earth-shattering.
I thought that stood a chance.
All right.
I don't know what the character development is of this next one, honestly.
Well, I'm going to give it to Lily because Lily's more of a Kill Bill person. What's the growth of the bride?
I think she just wants to murder everyone, and she does it.
Well,
she sets out with a mission, and she completes the mission.
Well, I think that this is a person that was very comfortable in her world, and she's an assassin, and her boyfriend was her boss, and that was her ex-boyfriend. Her boss is her ex-boyfriend. And then she falls in love, and she's going to go have this whole other life. And she wakes up after being in a shootout and no longer pregnant, all by herself.
Accident.
No, they kill everyone.
No, they kill everyone at the wedding.
At her wedding.
Oh, at her wedding. Oh, right, yeah. What's that?
Everyone in her world. Because she leaves the assassin life.
Movie. I have to say, this is not a movie I like.
Okay, obviously Frodo's gonna win, but I'm just saying she then.
No, I'm not saying you shouldn't put this in here. I think
she has to rebuild her life. She has to rebuild her life.
She's the very bottom of the barrel. She basically is
gets
completely
put in a coffin and has to dig herself out.
She has to dig herself out. Her body's totally atrophied.
Yeah,
she can't even move. She wills herself, but she also has to rebuild herself, and her goal is to get revenge, but also to get her daughter back. And she goes through this insane 2-movie quest. And then at the end, spoiler alert, this movie is like 25 years old.
It's not that old.
Or whatever. It's old though.
It's 20.
Achieves her goal and gets this daughter back. Her daughter's like 6 years old at that point. She's never met her and has to be her mom now. And
but you don't see that part of the movie. You just see her murder everyone in 2 movies.
And at the end, she's with the daughter, and then she's like has everything that she's been fighting for. And then she goes into the bathroom and she just cries by herself after being so strong. And sort of like all this vulnerability comes out, and now is going to begin the journey of motherhood.
You gave me a tough one on this one. I'm going to still go with Frodo. But
okay, that's okay.
I have personal buy-in to the attributes behind, and there's also a mission for the world. However, I have a lot of respect for that character, despite how murderous she is, because it sounds like she literally, pulled herself out of the ground to be able to not only fight for her own survival, but the relationship of being a mother. I also think part of why, besides her murdering qualities, I didn't vote for her, is that I think she's still got room for that growth, right? The crying in itself, but now how does she evolve into being her without that fear and her as a mom? So I would love
okay. Okay. So Frodo's winning. I want to make a note that the next character was not a good and evil thing. It was just the amount of change that happens.
Yeah. So it's hard for me to lose sight of that, the former factors.
But then it swings back.
Okay. So Anakin Skywalker, young boy, born with tremendous gifts, is an orphan, separated from, and in order to live a life not in basically imprisoned, has to leave his mother. So when you think of trauma, has to leave his mother and goes to live with the Jedis, who train him in all of his powers, but in his missing of his mother, but also the seduction of the power, the loss of his girlfriend, he has disillusionment with the people who taught him. All of that creates a recipe by which he is essentially converted and brought over to the dark side, in which he transitions from Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader, of which he becomes like a genocidal maniac. Like, the Kill Bill lady's got nothing on who Darth Vader has killed. He murdered children, and his first job was killing all the Jedi younglings. Okay. And then in his final hours of life, literally in his final hours of life,
turns it around.
His son, who deeply believes that there is still good in him, redeems himself by saving his son's life and returning back to that person that he once was at the end, right before he dies. But he spent a good 25 years murdering people.
He didn't know Mollie. I don't know what to say.
There is a ton of transformation in that character's narrative. However, similarly to the last comment, the last character, still there is room for growth. That one action shows me the beginning of a transformation rather than long lasting. And so then what does that look like? Also, that even though that change is massive, it feels quite self-involved. So like, how much of it is really for him versus changing in total?
Got it. Okay. So, I see. And is he the one doing the work? Is he the one doing the work really? Or is it really his son who is the one who that's an interesting growth story anyway, but I can't do Luke Skywalker because of the Last Jedi. I
need to make a separate appointment with you for that.
Okay, now last but not least, Michael Corleone. Again, we're looking for the most interesting, or what you think is the best growth. Michael Corleone comes from a crime family, a very dominant father, hierarchical, but is the golden boy who goes and serves in the military, and who his father thought would one day be a senator or president. And then after the murder of his older brother, takes over that role as the patriarch and fully embraces being the head of the crime family, to the point where he murders his other brother and eventually in his last years of his life, in his last 10, 20 years of his life, tries to come back to his initial mission of making the family legitimate. That was always his hope, was that I'll take over, but I'll make it good. But he goes and, darker and darker, darker. And in the end, even through all of his efforts to make things right, still causes more death and tragedy in his family. And so even though he somewhat achieves a certain level of legitimacy for himself and confessing of his sins himself, isn't really able to right the wrongs of the past, but and ends up dying sad with a tremendous amount of guilt, even though he has tried to absolve himself through religious practice, through business practice, through criminal practice, desperately trying to cleanse himself.
Beautiful story. And also, sorry to disappoint, going back to Frodo for a second, but let me also go back to why. I think it sounds like it was a small, minor step to go from a place of like being a family member to being in the family business, which brought some kind of like, it sounds like negative undertones to his involvement. And then it sounds like he stayed in that realm for a really long time, maybe intensifying that. And then it sounds like he tried to do some repair and healing, but all of it sounds like they were subtle steps in the opposite direction versus grand leaps to change the world.
Yeah. Do you think that happens with folks that, they say, the way to hell is paved with the best intentions? You ever find that people in that effort to, no, I'm going to make it legitimate, I'm going to get it around this time, but they almost like they can't get out of it? Or is there really always a choice to get out of it?
I think there's always a choice to see what you most want to sit with that feels comfortable and resonates with you, as well as who you want to be in the world. I think the trap there is thinking that you can change the system to make the system feel different. That's bigger than you, even when you're the head of it, because everyone involved has an underlying motive that brought them together in the first place. But if you don't want to feel like the undertones of that system, then that's the option to kind of choose.
Which is why I got out of the bunk bed conversation, guys. That was my good callback. All right, Molly, thank you for that marathon, that comparathon. We're now going to go to one of our favorite parts of the show, which is our shout outs and recs. And in this, we'll also do a little mini review of I Want You Back, the big Valentine's Day movie that was released on Amazon Prime. And Becky, take it away. Kick off our shout outs and recs.
A few weeks ago when Sundance was going on, Lily and I both watched this documentary called Aftershock. I don't know, maybe Lily wants to speak on it a bit more. It's very
really recommend it.
Very
I don't
powerful.
know if people can see it yet.
I don't think it's widely available yet, but look for it in festivals. I'm sure it'll be out. Very powerful documentary about the maternal morbidity rate epidemic that is happening in the United States with Black women and women of color, and it dives into some personal stories and kind of explains this very severe situation, crisis, and it's very powerful.
Not nominated for an Oscar, sadly.
It wouldn't be eligible because it was released in it premiered in 2022. And the Oscars are
okay. It was 2021. Okay, well, good. For next year.
Then taking a recommendation from Gabe and Etta, two of our very, very favorite guests that we have on this show from time to time. I have been watching Ghosts, the BBC show that's available on HBO.
The original.
Just hilarious. About a very, very broke couple that inherits a massive estate and that is not haunted, but that is inhabited by many ghosts from all eras, ranging from a caveman to a politician that died in the 90s. And the wife in the couple has an accident, and after the accident can now see and communicate with the ghosts. And it just chaos ensues, and it's truly delightful.
Is it like Beetlejuice?
No, because the ghosts have no abilities or power. Sort of. It's not unlike Beetlejuice, actually, but they have no abilities or powers whatsoever. I mean, like a couple of them can do the most minor things imaginable, but it's just the dynamics of the ghosts. They're essentially living this very mundane life. And there's just some ongoing bits that are really, really wonderful because they can't touch anything or go anywhere or do anything. So how do they entertain themselves for centuries on end is one of the themes.
That's wild.
It's very, very funny. And And then I did watch I Want You Back, and it is 2 hours long. That is true. It is 2 hours of Charlie Day and Jenny Slate, and I adore them both. So that was extremely, extremely delightful. And it's 2 hours long.
So I'm gonna come in here and say I watched it in 2 sittings. So
Me too. I watched it in 2 sittings.
So of the 3 of us, I was the one who was not interested in another streaming rom-com. I feel like I have been burned by a lot of them, although, and I don't count Sex Appeal, which we reviewed last week, as a simple rom-com.
I don't feel like I've been
that's
burned by
teen
streaming
comedy.
rom-coms.
It's a different genre, Shy.
I've been burned by streaming action movies far more
the
than
action movies
any...
for sure. That's true. The rom-coms have been okay, but this one seemed like the plot of it, like the setup to me was 2 people get dumped on the same day and decide to get back at their respective others. I was
speaking my language.
Literally,
that's all I need to
get them back. It's not I want to get back at you. It's called I want you back.
It's I whatever.
Maybe you should not be the one
fundamentally misunderstanding.
But what I want to say is that I found this movie delightful.
Thanks. 2 hours of the 2 of them.
I thought it was
2 hours.
both of them were amazing.
Money.
Yeah, I agree. It's
but I thought they
give me
spent
a third hour.
The 2 hours, I think 2 hours is just very long for this kind of movie, but I will say the 2 of them were really interesting and really kind characters, even though they had problems. They were nice people who were doing something not nice, but I felt for them a lot. And the people that they were trying to get back were not bad people either. These are all people making different choices for their love life, and I thought Scott Eastwood was great in it. I thought Gina Rodriguez was great in it.
Everyone was great, and Manny Jacinto.
He's
great.
He was amazing.
So good.
And
so different in it.
I think for me, so I thought this was way better than I thought it was going to be, even though I already loved everyone involved in it. I will say, like, spoiler-ish, I thought that the end of the movie was the last half hour, which is where you really start to feel how long it is, was where I would have like maybe shortened it a little bit and resolved it a little bit, not differently, but a little bit more. But I really like this movie.
Honestly, my criticism of it wasn't the 2 hours it's a joke. I mean, I'm serious. I think that's just too long for most movies these days, but it's actually what we get throughout the whole film is this incredible friendship build, this friendship chemistry between the 2 of them that's just phenomenal.
Right.
But we don't actually get the romantic chemistry part. And you understand that they each fall in love with each other. Like, you get it. They each have their, you don't
even see them kiss in the movie.
Eureka moment. Oh, I figured out I love. But that would have been nicer if that happened sooner. And then there was like a little bit of romantic chemistry because by the, it was missing. Like, I needed that. Like, I needed that part of the ship.
Well, let's turn to our relationship
right,
expert.
Right.
What do you think? I thought that they did have part of what they were
they
learning.
Showed friendship
Has Mollie
chemistry.
seen it?
No,
Mollie. But
came out yesterday. We're the 3 weirdos that watched it and are ready.
Well, maybe Mollie was like, I'm canceling all my clients today because homework just came out. This is my homework. I don't know. I don't know what her day's like.
You guys assign a BBC show that's like light, soft, murdery shows, like I'll watch.
Okay, great. You have to watch Ghosts. I
will. That's definitely
it's on HBO.
Summer Murders, Death in Paradise. I'm in. We can watch that. Right. Watch that. If you want. Okay, Shai, what was the question?
Oh, no, I was going to say just, Becky was saying that we didn't see the romantic chemistry on screen. You saw a lot of friendship chemistry, and the implication is that they really are in love. Friends falling in love. What's your take?
I think it's real. I think it's a solid way to start a relationship when you really are best friends. Because I think that's what the key is to having one of the keys to having a long-lasting relationship. It's that you actually care about the other one and what they think and how they feel and what's going on in their life, which is part of what I think of as best friends.
So not everything is the chemistry of like ripping each other's clothes off. You can still have
so long. All of a sudden, this person who, and no matter how hot they are, you like see them every day or all the time if you marry them or they like move in or whatever, right? Then, and it's not as titillating.
They're not sure if that holds up when it comes to Geralt and his very
besides Geralt. Let's go back to him for a second.
Becky and Lily apply
all those man thighs. I'm telling you, him not doing the dishes or like it would start to add up. All the thighs would be not enough.
That's a very good point. I get annoyed when people don't do the dishes. It's a good point.
But I think it would have been nice if they gave entertainment value a little chemistry. Also, I wonder if they like didn't go that direction because sometimes friends try that and then it stays friend zone because that doesn't really work, or friendship dissipates because romantic stuff dissipated and didn't work. So maybe that was part of the allure is to not really see it.
Anyways, that's I think that's
a very good answer. Thank you.
That is. See, great. I hope everyone send Molly a check for this episode. This defied my expectations in terms of how good it was going to be. I really enjoyed it. It was a really cute movie. In fact, in some ways I didn't need it to be funny. I just enjoyed what was happening and like some of the jokier scenes, like when he's hiding in the room were less important to me than I really enjoyed their relationship. Okay, Lily, what are your shout outs?
Okay, I just want to say it's a historic day on this podcast where I have more recommendations than you. This never happens, and I'm very excited. By you, I mean Shy. Where do I start?
I know.
You said Aftershock already.
I want to do a subcategory of genre of shows that you can watch with in-laws. So I feel like we need to provide the public a glossary.
I don't think anything that's on here you would watch. Oh, maybe you could watch.
You would have one that you provide people with. So if you have like a Russian in-law who's very politically intense, then Becky will provide a list of things that you can watch. If you have a Spanish mother-in-law who speaks no English and only want to watch horror stuff with you, and if there's like anything remotely not murdery, she's not interested, but you're not into watching that every single night, then I have a list for you. And on that list, and I don't know if you guys get this show in the States, but on my HBO, there's a show called The Cleaning Lady, which is about a Cambodian woman who comes to the United States on a visa with her son, who I think he must have leukemia. He needs a bone marrow transplant. So she gets a special visa to get a bone marrow transplant. But Lou Diamond Phillips, the donor, pulls out. And so she's now staying illegally in the U.S. as a cleaning lady to try and find a donor or a treatment or something for her kid while she's like on borrowed time with immigration. Ends up being a cleaning lady for the mob to make some money and get connections. And so
that would have been a great character for the comparathon.
Well, I haven't been at the show. I don't know what her character arc is completely. She's a badass. It's rare to see a female, I think, so like confident in a show. So I watched that with my mother-in-law. It's not bad. It's got Oliver Hudson, I think, as the most famous person. So that kind of gives you the level.
Lou Diamond Phillips?
He's a cameo, I would say. Jay Moore is a cameo, and then Oliver Hudson is the most famous person. So that gives you kind of the level of show we're talking about. But it's pretty good. The main actress is pretty good. Note, I also watch it dubbed for my in-laws. So who knows how anybody's really acting. I couldn't tell you. I also season 4 of The Sinner, which I still watch that show. I think me and Shari might be the only ones, and my mother-in-law. Also a good show to watch with her. Each season's a different story, and it's a sort of whodunit or why done it mystery with the great Bill Pullman. Then I started Sex Lives of College Girls, but it's a very unfortunate title. I wish Mindy Kaling had a little bit more foresight and not named it that, but she did. So fine. I started it and I stopped because it seemed terrible. Then a friend who I trust's opinion said, give it another try. So I went back, and the second half of the first episode, it does get better. And I'm on episode 6 and I'm enjoying it. It's pretty funny. There's a lot of consent. They really it's not, it's about these girls and kind of figuring out themselves. Every time so far there's a sex scene, the guy says 3 times, are you okay? Is this okay? So I feel like they're aware that they're, trying to include that in it. And Chalamet's sister is one of the main characters. She's fantastic. The other Timothy, whatever, I don't know her real name, but she's great. And so far I'm enjoying that show. It's a fun show. Then Ozark's part 1 of the season finale. Holy shit. Like, you have to be really into dark stuff to watch that show, but it's amazing. And then I Want You Back, which was a joy. So I've been very busy. This is over 2 weeks, because last week I didn't say my Rex. So this is 2 weeks, right?
Oh, so then that's why you have so many.
So I'll just say too, Resident Alien on Peacock is, or it's an NBC show, or it's sci-fi, but Peacock is where you can watch all the episodes without commercials. That show is awesome. It's the perfect vehicle for Alan Tudyk. It's got great characters, some really interesting, it's just cool. So Resident Alien, check that out. It's sci-fi dark comedy, like it. And then Billions season 6, the new era of Billions, with Mike Prince, played by Corey Stoll.
Can't wait to watch that. Also a show that only me and you watch.
As the new villain, or not villain, as the new adversary. And I think that show is, in the first 2 episodes at least, it's remarkable reinvention, but also recentering who the adversary is, away from the hedge fund manager of like the early 2000s to the more enlightened billionaire who thinks they're doing right for the world, but may not be, and maybe may not be, it's unclear yet, but versus the prosecutors trying to win political points. So it's really interesting, and they've pushed all the right characters to the forefront. And so if you thought Billions ended in season 5, which I did, so far season 6 is pretty awesome. Molly, how about you?
I already mentioned my top 2 favorites, but I will highlight them again. BBC Death in Paradise, BBC Midsummer Murders are 2 of my top faves. They're both really slow, but very sweet and very easy to watch with in-laws. They're not maybe one who loves horror.
Not my in-laws, but it seems like there's some sort of elderly person.
If your in-laws
here.
are Roger and Fanny Corman, if your in-laws are Roger
like
and
70
Fanny
and
Corman,
up, it seems.
They will watch this because
the demographic.
My parents watch one channel, and it's Acorn. So
do you have Acorn? They love it. That's all the BBC stuff.
I'm about it. I'm totally about it.
And you think it's like in slow motion, that channel. Like you should have to fast forward to watch, but that's just the speed of those shows. That's how slow they are.
So good.
Oh yeah. You don't think we hear about Acorn on these chats? We know. We know.
When we come down to Miami and we introduce you to the folks, we're just going to start you on talking about Acorn. But those sound cool. I do love a good murder mystery. All right, Molly. You can be found at Mollie Eliasof. So MOLLIEELISOF.com. And on Instagram at also Mollie Eliasof.
Mollie Eliasof, yeah.
Did I pronounce your name right?
So close. But
Is it Eliasof?
That's how I pronounce it, but it can be pronounced differently based on where you're from and what you're
but I think we should only pronounce it the way you pronounce it.
Yeah,
even though it
Mollie
can be pronounced other ways.
I've been pronouncing.
I guess you could pronounce Corman, but we don't.
What's the one that we mispronounce wrong? Which is the name that we did a whole.
Oh my gosh. It started off the Eric Banya.
Oh, yeah.
Eric Banya.
Mollie Eliasof. MollieEliasof.com.
Whose initials are me.
Yeah. Which is great, because if you're looking to be self-actualized and have growth and take your life to another level, reach out to her. She's amazing, but also just like follow her because she's cool and drops awesome insights on her socials and stuff. So, we're so grateful for you being here.
Thank you for your time.
And this is so much fun, and we can't wait to have you back again. This is great. And Lily, where can people follow you?
Chichi, CHICHIK Gomez on Twitter.
big explanation of the name last episode. So go back and listen to it.
Yes, go back to the last episode and listen to that explanation.
And Becky, where can people follow you?
At Paper BK Princess, also on Twitter.
And you can follow me at Pancake and the number 4 table on Twitter and Instagram. And coming up in a couple weeks at Farpoint, the Farpoint convention, which takes place in Hunt Valley, Maryland, the Friday Night Movie will be there. It's a really cool nonprofit comic convention. They have got some really cool guests, including Timothy Zahn, who wrote the amazing Star Wars sequels that we all love and maybe should have been made into the movies. And Friday Night Movie will be doing an episode of the show out in Salon A, and then in the panel room or the event room, we will be doing a class on podcasting for kids, and so we will be bringing up the next generation of podcasters with our patented Podcasting for Kids program. So check out Farpoint. They're super cool. We'll be putting a lot of stuff on socials coming soon to advertise our participation. The theme music is by What Does It Eat? And thanks everyone for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
Full Joan Rivers.
No. This is amazing because this just
it's really bad. It's getting progressively worse as the day goes on. And I spoke to Becky yesterday, and she goes, "Are you drunk?"
This further proves they could have found a Jewish woman to play Joan Rivers.
They could have me at 4 years old, which is what my voice sounded like.
Mom.
Yeah, I have a very scratchy voice, but it's getting progressively scratchier. Hello, Molly.